You know, I think after all this time, I've really worked out that the Bloomfield drive is all about that lead channel, really. If I'd made this video a year ago, just after I'd got both of these amps, this video would be really long because I would be discovering what I wanted to tell you as I went along. But now, a year later, having spent so much time with these amps, I really think I can make this as concise as possible, right? I've distilled down my thoughts and we're going to dive straight in. Today, I'm looking at the 2-Rock Bloomfield drive versus the 2-Rock Classic Reverb Signature. Now, I think these are probably the two most popular or asked about 2-Rock amps. And I want to let you know what the difference is, what the similarities are, which might suit what better. So I'm not going to be twiddling every knob every 2 seconds. I'm going to pick a few settings here and there to sort of demonstrate my points. So let's dive straight in. The first thing I want to do is talk about the cleans. Now, we're not talking about sterile, completely clean sounds. I'm not interested in that, but we will use that probably when it comes to pedals. So if you want to hear that, you will. What we're talking about is just when the amp gets meaty enough before breakup, before the edge of breakup, but just pushing on that edge of breakup, and all its harmonics have really come to the forefront. Now, it's interesting with both these amps because the Bloomfield drive is a 2-channel amp, and the Classic Reverb Signature is really a 1-channel amp but with 3 gain structures. So what I've discovered over time is that the Bloomfield drive's clean channel is very clean. It's neutral and it's big and there's a lot of headroom. Perfect for pedals, but we'll get there later. The Classic Reverb Signature, on the other hand, has a 2-Rock setting at the top. Then it has the Matt Schofield setting, but even a bit more output than Matt Schofield's amp. And then it has the blackface setting. Now, I'm not going to use the blackface setting for this because for me, it's got less power. It's a bit more scooped. It does a very specific thing, but I think the 2-Rock sounds and the Matt Schofield sounds really pop, and they really they bring out the 3D character of that amp. So having just filmed the clean demo, I want to start by saying this surprised me the way I felt doing this. Let's start by listening to the Bloomfield drive's clean channel, and then I want to say something about that. Okay, so that was the clean channel of the Bloomfield drive, and what you can't see and feel is it's a little bit stiff to play. It doesn't have a lot of give in it. Now, that might be the fact that it's 100 watts. The Classic Reverb that I've got is 40 watts, but you know, I've set them both at their highest settings. It's a little bit stiff to play the Bloomfield drive in its clean setting. It's not the most inspirational sound. Now, if we quickly hear the 2-Rock gain structure setting of the Classic Reverb Signature, we can compare those. Okay, so in the room, the Classic Reverb does sound a lot more 3D compared to the clean channel of the Bloomfield drive. It's also less stiff. It's got a bit more suppleness. It's more fun to play, to be honest, in the clean settings. Ultimately, the end product of both sound good, So it comes down to your preference in terms of what you hear. I'd say the classic Reverb has a bit more character and a more defined character. Definitely sounds more Fenderish as well to me than the Bloomfield Drive does, which is a bit more neutral, a bit more less of a hump in any direction. But then what we can do is we can do the same sort of sound, but using the lead channel of the Bloomfield Drive, but not with a massive amount of gain. And we can do the Matt Schofield setting of the gain structure in the classic Reverb and compare those. So let's hear what those sound like. So I'd say the lead channel of the Bloomfield Drive played as clean as you can. Well, I mean, you could play it cleaner, but played the way I like it is 100% improvement on the clean channel. Just has a lot more character, nuance, dynamics, meat on the bone, interest, feeling in the room. It's a lot more 3D than the clean channel is. So already I can tell you that the clean channel of the Bloomfield is great for pedals. I mean, it can take every pedal, any pedal, but you know, I'm going to have to demonstrate that for you later. The classic Reverb signature sounds fantastic in all of its gain structure positions, but the two I'm showing you, the top one and the middle one, just the most dynamic, 3D, warm. They're really warm, so they're much warmer, I feel, than the Bloomfield Drive. They just have different harmonics to them, and when you use the Matt Schofield setting, it really just brings it to life even more. I mean, in both cases, the lead channel and the Matt Schofield channel, if you really hit it with a plectrum, you're going to get a bit of breakup. But just to show you that you can use them clean. Now, if you were to add pedals to that, because you've already got the preamps working a bit more by playing like that, you probably would, find it different to playing a completely clean channel or clean setting. But if you're just playing it for clean, if you're recording, whatever, this is the way I would have it set up. So yeah, I think that's as far as the clean playing goes. That's what I've discovered after a year. So now we want to move on. I want to get Edge of Breakup. You know, probably my favorite sounds to get out of amps is just when it's going from meaty clean to low gain, medium gain. And we're going to do that with two guitars. We'll do a single coil and we'll do a humbucker. You know, I think after all this time, I've really worked out that the Bloomfield drive is all about that lead channel, really. It does have a massive, reasonably neutral, beautifully reverbed clean channel, perfect for pedals, pretty good for your main clean tone, unless you want a lot more character like the classic Reverb. But when you put it in that lead channel, it's got its own thing. So I feel like the classic Reverb signature really harks back to those big Fender amps, you know, the Supers and things like that. It opens up beautifully. It has that Stevie Ray Vaughan-esque type of tone, but with, you know, a massive amount of ways to tweak it, which is fantastic. It's hard to get a bad sound out of the classic Reverb, so if you're after that massive Fender-y sound, it's like the, you know, the benchmark, I'd say. It's a Fender on steroids. But the Bloomfield Drive offers you something completely different. It feels much more in that Joey Landreth, Ariel Posen type of world. It's got that slightly darker tone. It's not really a Fender-linked sound as far as I can, you know, feel and work out. And playing it with that PRS, which has a slightly dark tone in itself, it's a heavy guitar. Yeah, that was wonderful. I mean, the sound I'd love to get to is the sound that almost like you're playing a slide but without using a slide, and with the treble sort of rolled off, and the Bloomfield Drive in that lead channel like that just does such a good job of that. It's addictive to play with humbuckers especially. So I feel like if you're a single coil player and you want a Fender tone, obviously then classic Reverb. If you're a humbucker player, the CRS still sounds like the CRS with humbuckers. It's still a very open sound, slightly chimey, maybe chimey is not the right word because that's more of a Vox thing, but it's got that bell, the Fender bell tone, that's more like it. The Bloomfield Drive, on the other hand, is much more seductive, I think. It's much more rolled off, it's muted. It's really good for minimalists, I think, but you know, you could make massive sounds with that thing. So it's safe to say, I've now figured out really what the two are for. They're for different crowds, really. Yeah, both incredible. But really, I hope that demo has really helped you. If you've been umming and ahhing and you're not sure and you're just not quite sure what the Bloomfield Drive is all about, that lead channel just, it's beautiful. Really, really addictive. And in the room, it just sounds fantastic. So if you're a Joey Landreth, Ariel Posen sort of fan, the Bloomfield Drive, I know Ariel Posen plays traditional cleans mostly, but his sound does sound a bit like the Bloomfield Drive. So there we go. I think that's, after a year, I finally managed to figure out what I really think about them. I love them both. The Bloomfield is much more unique. The CRS is much more of the Fender thing, blown up to proportions, bigger proportions with more ways to tweak it. And, you know, I had the FET in there, which just helps to push. And I kept it in for the humbuckers as well, and it just sounds like the perfect Fender-y type amp. So yeah, right, now I'm going to put a little pedal board together, just maybe 4 or 5 pedals, take you through some different ways to sort of boost the amp, different overdrive, and then a couple of fuzzes to see which one copes best with fuzz. So let's go and have some fun with that. Well, I was definitely trying something different there with that second fuzz demo. But going back to the clean tones, the classic Reverb signature, it actually has a fair amount of gain dialed in. It's just the way you set it up. I don't have the FET on, and I'm using the 2-rock setting, not the Schofield setting, so it's got slightly less output. But if you don't have some gain dialed in, it can get a little bit spiky. I mean, it really reminds me in that sense of a Fender amp. You know, you really want to have that Fender amp going to some degree, right? Warming up, especially with fuzzes, otherwise you're going to get some odd sounds, some clanging sounds. Now, with the vintage fuzz, I wanted to dial in a real vintage fuzz sound. I think both amps worked really well for that. In general, I find the Bloomfield Drive provides a better platform for the pedal. That's a general thing I find. The classic Reverb is going to colour your tone a lot more. It's going to sound like a Fender amp with a pedal. You still get the bell sound. You get that, you know, those Fendery sounds. It's what it is. And for some people, that's going to be absolutely what they want. And for other people, it's only for certain situations. And for some people, they just don't want that at all. The Bloomfield is more neutral in its clean. It's more flat. And it gives the pedal a platform to sort of show itself more distinctly than it does with the classic Reverb. with the Scott McKeon pedal, I actually wanted to really push these amps into a difficult situation. I had the volume and the fuzz on really high, was getting feedback. It was pretty loud in the room, and I wanted to do something a little bit more ambient to show you that these amps can both cope with that sort of thing, you know, with big, difficult-ish fuzz. And with a guitar like that, you know, an old style semi-hollow guitar, it's going to get feedback. It's you know, it's just an interesting thing I thought I'd do rather than my normal fuzz tones. Okay, so now we've got two overdrive pedals, although one of them is double-sided. So we're going to start with the Protein. We're going to do the blue side, that's the blues breaker, then the green side, which is an ODR1 style pedal. And then we're going to do a clone. So I think I've covered a good range of different sounds here. This is the Mythos Mjolnir. So let's start with the clean tone. This is going to be a Les Paul, and then I'll just sort of butt in where I need to. This blue side of the Protein is still just one of the greatest things I've ever heard. It just sounds incredible in every situation, every amp, every guitar I've tried. And with both of these, it just still brings out the best of the guitar and the amp. So again, if Protein are going to watch this, hopefully one day, please can we have a single pedal of the Protein? I'm not a fan of the green side. It's not that it's not great, it just doesn't suit my style of playing. It has more compression, and there are other ODR1 type pedals that I prefer, just being very honest. Although, let's hear what it sounds like in a second. So here, this is the pedal that sort of takes away the character of the amps, and it is the sound of the pedal that you're hearing, albeit very high quality sound. It's just more compression than I personally would use, but I mean, I could have set it differently, so that's my fault. But both amps do a great job of showing off this pedal. So, you know, it tells you if you've got that sort of soft clipping, more compression, the amps, both amps are going to equally cope and give you the sound of the pedal, as opposed to being a bit too much of themselves, if that makes sense. So with the blue side of the Protein, it brings out the best of your gear, I find, with their character, and with the green side, it's that sound of that pedal. Right, now let's hit this clone. I've got to say, I haven't used the Mythos Mjolnir that much. I've used it in several videos, but never really sat with it. I had a chance just for about 20 minutes to play with it. Oh my God, it's better than I thought. I'd looked at some settings online of how other people have used clone pedals, and I've sort of dialed it in a bit better than usual, I think. So let's hear it. Okay, for me, clearly, and definitely in the room, but hopefully on the recording, the Bloomfield Drive just did a better job with this pedal. It's so dynamic. Now, it could be because I've got the 100 watt Bloomfield and the 40 watt classic reverb, but I think that's not the only reason for this. The classic reverb in this case, when you're using a transparent pedal like the Protein, the Blue Protein, a clone, the classic reverb still has its own innate character that's more characterful than the clean of the Bloomfield Drive. So it's always interacting with the pedal to do something. Whereas with the Bloomfield, you've got a completely clear palette when you're using that clear channel, the clean channel. And these clones or clone pedals in general, they're a bit like the blue side of the Protein when you play gently. Really beautiful sound, but the way they clip is just so great to play. And for me, playing it with the Bloomfield just was massive and brilliant, and I loved it, more so than I did with the classic reverb. So I think I've used enough pedals now to just demonstrate that both are great with pedals. The classic reverb, its sound interacts more, so you get more of the amp sound based on the pedal. With something like a driven ODR1 style, you're going to get more compression, and therefore it's going to override the amps a bit more. But when it comes to transparency or a bit more hard clipping stuff, the classic reverb is going to show off itself a bit more, and it's a bit more spiky, it's more fendery, it just is. And the Bloomfield Drive, on the other hand, if you're looking for a certain type of tone like I am, maybe, Ariel Posen type tone, or, that sort of more muted, mellow sound, it's just great with pedals. And that's the one reason my Bloomfield Drive gets used a lot more. So let me lay this out. What's my conclusion after a year? Well, first of all, I'm sorry I haven't done every knob and tweak and things like that. I did that in some of my earlier 2-rock videos when I didn't know the amps that well, so really I was going through the process myself. In this video, I hope you see I've cherry-picked what I think are the best aspects to show off, to compare. So here's what I think. If you love the Fender sound, and particularly if you love single coils, but you know, with humbuckers it works as well with this amp, you're going to get real Fendery tones. That's really what the classic reverb is for. It's beautiful clean sound, more characterful than the Bloomfield, so it gives you more of the character that you want if you want something like a classic reverb, a Fendery sound. Edge of Breakup, fantastic, but this is where it's really sort of showing itself to be that particular sound, right? Which is gorgeous and I love it, but it's not for my, I personally don't use it for my own style of music, but I do enjoy playing it to get that specific super reverb type sound. And then with pedals, I find it's just not as good as the Bloomfield. It's not that it's not, it is fantastic. You know, pedals work great with it. You can stack pedals, you've got enough headroom to do whatever you want. It has more of its own character, and therefore it's less of a pedal platform, and it's more of a, you've taken the great amp tone you want and you want to increase it with a boost pedal, or you could use something like the Kingtone Rise, you know, treble booster, or you could really get a fuzz to dial in well with that super reverby sort of sound to give you those classic fuzzy tones, things like that. The Bloomfield Drive is a different animal. Its clean is less beautiful, it's more neutral, and I think that's perfect for pedals, so you can use the clean channel as your pedal platform. Then it's taken me a long time to get used to and dial in the lead sounds of this, and I find it works better with humbuckers, right? So one thing that I love, got used to and I really love now, is the lead master. If you open that up, it really does drive this amp beautifully. Now you need to use a little bit of volume, so if you can't use much volume, then it will work pretty well with most attenuators. I've tried it with a couple, and the whole thing does really sing still. The Bloomfield Drive is more unique, in some ways perhaps more interesting, unless you just absolutely love that particular Fender sound. I hope this has helped to answer some questions for you. If you're choosing between the two, you know, it's been difficult, I've found, to find comparisons that really show off what the amps are about. Maybe that person hasn't had a chance to live with both amps for a year if they're a shop or something like that, and they've just got it in for a few days. If you want to ask me any questions, ask me down below, ask me for things I haven't covered. I'm more than happy to do another video from a different angle. If you have some really interesting angle you want to know about both amps or with different guitars. But really I think this clears it up. Classic reverb, Fender super reverb type. You can really get those massive warm Fender tube character, Stevie Ray Vaughan, beautiful cleans, absolutely beautiful cleans, really picks up well on a recording, you know, gorgeous 3D in the room. Bloomfield Drive, much more sultry, more muted, mellow, minimalistic, giving you those slide tones in your fingers when you use the lead channel, just epic, but can't do everything, and can't give you those Fendery tones either, not the sort of Fender tones that the classic reverb does. So anyway, I hope this has been of interest. Give it a thumbs up, and next week I have hit the threshold for my giveaway, so this is really the last shout out for it before I go ahead and do the giveaway next week. I'm giving this away now. Next week in the next video, this Cherryotone Horsebreaker. It's a Clod & Clone on the left, a Bluesbreaker on the right. It's fantastic. You can see I've used it quite a lot. It's got my own pedal tape on it. I love it, but I'm giving it away anywhere in the world. Just subscribe and comment. All right, cheers.